diet don't have a lot to do with it. I wouldn't doubt if your diet don't have a lot to
wouldn't
do.
doubt.
Ashe County Oral History Project. An interview with Martha Harmon. Interviewer Clarice Weaver, November the 6th, 1980. Miss Harmon, I want to ask you about, now you're 99.
Yeah.
And you
Will be in March.
you will be 99 in March,
Yeah.
and you are doing sitting here before I came crocheting.
Making card baskets.
And you crochet, and you do all this little needle craft. You make those what they call not pothole pot.
Hot plate mat.
Hot, yeah, though you make those nice hot plate mats.
Yeah.
You can sew. That's unusual to be 99, but
Yeah.
unusual to be able
I
to do
pieced the
this.
quilt out, cut pieces here that's a little bit back, but it didn't get hit fixed to suit me good, and I've been sort of mad at hits ever since.
Well, how about is that your crocheting? Did you make that?
I made that out of rope bread paper.
Oh, that's pretty. That's pretty. Well, how you mentioned that you did your gardening and keeping your house before you moved over here 4 years ago. At 96, you were still keeping house. Is that right?
Yeah.
You were still doing your housework?
Yeah, I done all my cooking and everything like that.
What do you attribute your long days to and your
Well,
ability?
I don't know. I've worked hard all my life, and of course, I tell them I drunk a lot of milk and eat a lot of butter. I didn't eat too much meat, but I've had plenty of vegetables and plenty of milk. And doctor asked Miss Boone what I played my long life to. I told him hard work, plenty of milk and butter, and plenty of vegetables. That's all I told him.
Well, now we don't eat as much butter, you know. We eat margarine and.
Well, I guess.
But you had real rich cow's butter, didn't
Yeah,
you?
and I had plenty of good rich milk. I always tried to have that as long as after I had 2 cows when I left home.
Is
I had
that
2
right?
milk cows. Stanley milked them, of course. I couldn't milk, but he milked them. But I had my milk and butter all right.
Well, are you still eating honey? Did you eat a lot of honey?
Well, when we had honey, he used to have an awful lot of bees. My son did. I eat a lot of honey then, but I never was a hand to eat too much sweets. I love sour foods.
Is that right?
Yeah, I just love sour food, pickled beans, and I just always crazy over pickled beans. And
Did you
I
pickle
never-
corn too?
Yeah, just anything pickled, kraut or anything. I just eat that. And I was terrible hand to eat. I want my vegetables every day. You know, I take just little old knickknacks. I don't eat as good as vegetables and cornbread
sure
and
that you
milk.
I wouldn't doubt if your diet don't have a lot to do with
Huh?
it. I wouldn't doubt if your diet
Well,
don't have a
I
lot
wouldn't
to do
doubt
with
if it don't. I told them, doctor, same now for people not to drink much milk. I told them I drunk a lot of it all my life, and it's not kill me. I drunk a lot of milk. And I drunk it rich too. I didn't drink skim milk.
Are you on a diet or anything now?
No, I just eat anything I want to eat.
I don't give them much salt. Keep the salt away from a certain amount. I don't know.
Well, you're someone to be proud of.
Yeah,
You really
thank you.
are. You're Mrs. Harmon, we decided to finish this up today, November the 7th. Yesterday I was here and we decided to finish our tape up today. And I think what we'll do today is just kind of a wrap-up of all that was, of the things that we wanted to maybe talk a little bit more about.
Well,
And we got on a big talk about the home remedies yesterday, And now I have here this worm seed, this sprig of worm seed, and you said the correct name is Jerusalem ope,
Oh.
O-P-E.
Yeah.
What did you do? What did you use Jerusalem ope for?
Well, it's worm seed, you know. We use that, you know, when give it to children if that pup is wormy, you know. And it will sure and clean,
Kill the worms?
kill them, you bet.
It smells
Yeah.
like it could do
You
something
just
like that.
take the seed, you know, and put honey in it and let it get warm, you know, mix it all up together
Mhm.
and let the children eat it. You know, they wouldn't take it just so and put that honey in it. That'll cause them to eat it, don't you know? And she'd give us children, you know, every once in a while she'd pick up a dose of that and have us take it. And you know now Myrtle, well, I guess she'd have died, but I get Aunt Lou, one of my aunts, staying with me, and she got sick in the morning. Aunt Lou said she's going to take have a convulsion, and I just give her worm seed, and you know it just cleaned her out, and she just got well right now.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Well, I've always heard one worm could do as much damage as a tummy full.
Well, I guess, but now I think it's about 40 that come
Is
from
that
her. And she would, I guess,
Uh-huh.
have died, you know,
Undoubtedly.
that'd have killed her.
Oh yeah. Well, how did you treat the animals too? With
Yes, I give it to everything on, even feed to my sheep, chickens, hogs, cats, dogs,
they all none escaped.
everything, you know.
Yeah.
You know, anything now, I know the doctor told me now that cattle, it was good to give cattle sometimes. And the horse, my brother told me you give him a good feed of that worm seed in the fall, and he'd go through the winter a lot better.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Did you grow this in your garden, or does it grow wild?
He'd just go around around the garden, little out places, you know, where you would have where weeds would grow. And I know there's much of it. We had so much of it there. He got to going around the chicken house, you know, just rich around there. Lord, there's just beds of it, and I'd just gather that, you know. I was particular to gather it and save it, you know, that Bill Banner, you know, he come on one day and I was selling it out, and he got to laughing at me. Said he's going to give me a dose of that. I told him I'd give him a dose.
Well, they still give worm medicine from the doctors, so that was your home remedy for it,
Yeah,
wasn't it?
and Dr. Love told me one time he had centennial, I believe, centennial or something like that he gave children. He said sometimes the worm seed would fail and the centennial was sure a remedy, and so then sometimes it would fail and the worm seed would, we always call it, right name Jerusalem oak, but we just call it worm seed.
Yeah, for
'Cause
sure.
we would use it for worms.
Mm-hmm.
Fine.
What was that you said the doctors gave?
Uh,
What was the name of that medicine for worms?
Well, I forgot, it was centennial, I believe he called it, Dr.
I wonder how you
Love.
spell centennial.
I don't know just how it's spelled, but I think that's the way he called it, centennial. He just told me he got talking to me one day that way, you know, he was our doctor. He delivered two of my children, and he was our country doctor, and he delivered my first grandson.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and he was just our main doctor, and he'd tell me about his medicine, different kinds of it, you know, that way.
Well, we go back to the knitting. Did they have a knitting machine when you were?
Well, I had one.
How did it work?
Well, just like a corn sheller. It had a turn it, and as fast as I had the instruction to put on the machine. You see, it was round, about that big round. It had needles plumb around it, and it had the instruction how to set it up. You know, there was little wire outfit in the middle of that, and you'd catch your threads around that, catch it out round the needle. You just had to go round and around. You got plumb around. And of course I don't guess I could set it up down and knit on it, but it's been so long since I've knit any. But you know, this face you could turn it then. It had weights then that held that stuck in a sock where you was knitting. He'd hold them down and pull them down, you know, as that other crank turned.
Uh-huh.
And you could knit a stuff, a long leg just in 5 minutes. Then you had you had to change it then to make the heel. You had to push down so many stitches and leave up so many. And of course my instruction told all about how to knit the heel. And he'd come out, you know, the toe, when it knit the toe, but it come out open there, and you had to take a needle and sew the toe. But now the rest of it is all finished up.
Your mother would have done well to have had one of
Well,
those.
Master, they didn't have them then, but you know, I bought me one. I just didn't have the patience to knit a whole lot, and you know, when I got my machine, then I'd knit. My neighbors come in and hire me to knit for them, you know.
Really?
And I'd charge 20 cents a pair for knitting one pair of socks or stockings. And,
Did they furnish the?
they furnished the
yarn?
yard, you know, and I just knitted, and I guess I done plenty of work for the people to pay for a machine, but I paid for it when I ordered it. We happened to get an address someplace I could order the machine, and we ordered that. And just sent the money, you know, with order and got a machine. And
Was that done on a knitting machine? Do you still have your knitting machine?
yeah,
You do?
it's there at home, yeah.
She met Ralph a pair and Stanley a pair. Just
This is a pair of that you have,
Is that one I knit?
for
isn't?
Ralph, just for a keepsake.
Isn't that great?
Been in the drawing got dirty.
Yeah.
Well, that's so
The
pretty.
thread's not
Yes,
good.
you
It's
see the
under
needle.
rotten thread.
Then,
She made
and,
her own thread card.
you know, I see I used the two colors.
That's just
And
cheap.
Ralph asked me, he says, how'd you get that color in there? Well, I says, I just cut the thread there, put this color on, knits, I got the heel, and then I put the other on. And he wondered how, you know, I got that different colors.
Now, when your children were little, you used your own thread from the sheep, I guess, did you?
Yeah, I carded and spun my thread, you know, to do my knitting with.
Well, that's interesting. That's really interesting. Do they sell those machines nowadays? Do you know?
Huh?
Do they still make those machines and sell them?
Well, I
Or
don't
have you
guess they do because
I've not seen one, have you?
everybody buys, you
That's the
know,
only
this.
one I ever saw nowhere in the country.
And,
Gerhardt Knitting Company. Gerhardt Knitting Machine.
huh?
Gerhardt Knitting Machine or something. That was the only one in the country.
I'd love to see it.
I hope Stanley doesn't let somebody steal it.
Well, that'd be a real keepsake, wouldn't it?
Mm-hmm.
We also were talking about the way you all had to go take your lumber down and trade it for your flour. Now, you mentioned that you couldn't get the thrashing machine up in there too well because the road wasn't any good.
Well, the road is rough, you know, rocks, that's off rocky country, and
How far was this store that you had to go to?
it was 12 or 15 miles. You
That was
know,
a long ways in those days,
Yeah,
wasn't it?
way back to the mountains, you know, they'd have to go over mountains, and I don't guess you was at Dark Ridge, the country they call it, of course.
What?
Call it Dark Ridge. You
Dark
go,
Ridge.
Yeah, went over a big ridge, you know,
Near
and
Vanderbilt.
down to what they call Heaton, then out to Elk Park.
Uh-huh.
And, you know, now they'd put up a big load of all the lumber they could pack. They sold squares, about that big, squares. And they'd pack them squares on a big wagon. That's all they could get on there. Put them...
Were the shingles?
Huh?
Were the shingles for a roof or just boards?
Shingles. That was the boards, what
For
the
the roof.
split. The old people split boards to cover the buildings with. My
Yeah.
dad had got a shingle saw, and they'd take quite pine logs, and saw them just the length of one. The shingle wasn't longer than that. They'd sew that off then and just burst them up in small, so they could handle and sew them on the shingle saw. And that was, now I'll tell you about it. Maybe you would not know that, but I can tell you, the first high school building at Boone was built with shingles that was sold on my daddy's farm, on my daddy's mill.
Is that?
And I'll tell you how he Dr. Darty, of course you've heard of him,
Yes.
Glenn Darty.
Yes.
Well, now he got heard my brother Smith. He was wanting to go to school. And, money is hard times then, money is scarce. And he saw my brother one day and he says, are you the Harmon boy that's wanting to get an education? He says, yes, but I don't have any money. He says, well, you've got a mill, you've got timber. You saw me out a bill of shingles to cover the first building, high school building. He says you can pay your way in school that way. And my brother went to work, and the pine timber all up on the mountain, rest above the mill, white pine timber. And that's what they sold shingles out of, was white pine timber. Well, he just hauled that in and sold out the shingles. They set a fellow with a big wagon. Now, you didn't have trucks that day and time, set him with a big wagon. And he hauled those shingles down to Boone, and that was the way the first high school building was covered with shingles that was sold on my daddy's mill.
Is that?
Yeah.
Right?
And my brother, when he was the first one to enter the high school. When they took up school in the morning, my brother was the first one there and the first one that signed up
Is that?
for the high school in that school that year.
And Dr. Darty was a teacher.
Yeah,
Well,
he was a teacher, he ruled everything then, Dr. Darty Bland.
Uh-huh.
And, then he got in the habit of coming to my daddy's, when he was over in there, he'd go to the teacher's meeting, and he'd always make a point to go to my daddy's to spend the night. And by getting acquainted with my brother, at school. And then my other three brothers then went to school, to Boone.
Mm-hmm.
They first, when they didn't have a school there, and they had a little subscription school at Cold Creek, they got to go over there to that. And then they got to go into Boone then and got the education enough so they could teach school.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the first school teachers, they get a little 7th grade and go teaching, but then they had to go to the high school.
Mm-hmm.
And my brothers had to get a high school education before they could teach.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, that was a big thing in those days, wasn't it?
Yeah,
To get a high school education.
And then back then they thought they was getting along pretty good if they got a high school education.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and they were.
Well, it was for that time now. You just think about back in those mountains, when those schools were no education.
Mm-hmm. Well, I guess they spent more time with their books, and they didn't have the sports and everything they do now
No, they
football
put in,
teams and
they
all
put
that.
in the time on I know my oldest son, he got interested in wanting to get an education, and every time he'd come in from his work, he'd grab his book before he'd sit down. He'd sit down and go to studying his book, and he just kept that up. He got his master's degree.
Is that right?
Yeah,
The one in Kentucky?
yeah,
Uh-huh.
yeah. He just stayed with it. He didn't. He's like my brother. He didn't have any money, but he scratched around somewhere until he got through college and got his master's degree, and he wanted to go right on. His wife, he got married while he was in college, and his wife, she didn't she wasn't through yet, but she finished after her and him was married, and he wanted to go on to school. She says, Clay, I want to live with you a little longer. If you keep going to school, you'll just work yourself to death. He says, I want to live with you a while longer. He quit school, quit college rather.
Well, you mentioned that people who didn't have a way of trading for the flour ate cornbread. Did they eat cornbread for breakfast?
Well, I guess they did.
That's all they had.
You
wasn't
see,
it?
they didn't bring flour in the stores around home there, and if they out where they could have the thresh machine, you know, a lot of them would raise wheat, where they could raise wheat, and some of them they'd raise them some rye, and an old man down on the creek, he could grind it, and they'd have some rye, buckwheat. They'd raise some buckwheat. They'd have buckwheat cakes, you know, heap of time for breakfast, and raise rye, you know, and grind that, and he had a kind of a bolt. This old man did. He could bolt rye bread, or rye flour, or meal rather, rye flour when it's ground, buckwheat flour.
Bolt, a bolt.
He had a bolt,
What's
a homemade bolt, you know, thing that shake the flour out and leave the bran. Don't you see? They called it a bolt.
Oh, a mold. Or,
Bolt,
Oh,
B-O-L-T-E,
bolt. Oh, yeah.
bolt.
uh-huh.
Yeah, he had a bolt, and you know, some of them would raise buckwheat and rye, but there was many of them that raised wheat. They would try fool with that, you know, it was hard to thresh or something.
Mm-hmm.
And my daddy, he just bought his flour, you know, went all the way to Elk Park, got his flour, swapped his lumber for it, you see.
Well, it saved a lot of hard work too, didn't it?
Yeah.
Of course, the sawmilling is
of
hard
course,
work.
It's
Yeah.
hard work to saw out that
But
lumber, go in the
can't-
mountains and cut logs and haul them in, saw them in squares and get them to Elk Park. You know, they earned it time they got the flour.
Oh, you better believe it.
Yeah.
When you were a little girl, did your folks ever sit around and tell ghost stories?
No, they didn't tell us tales like that. You know, that makes children nervous.
Mm-hmm.
Some people would tell it, but they wasn't bad to tell tales like that.
Mm-hmm. Didn't want to scare you children, did they?
No, you know, that make telling them old tales like that thing happening, you know, bad happening. It makes children nervous, make them afraid of a night. Oh, I was afraid of a night anyway. Of a night, I couldn't get out of the house. I was just scared to death.
Well, you didn't have those flashlights and electric lights you switch on, you know. You had a lantern, I guess, did you?
Some of them had lanterns, and I'll tell you now, a lot of them done a traveling. If they had to go somewhere, or somebody got sick or something, they'd saw them out great long black pine, goes back and back Pine Rough Mountain, up in there in the mountains, kind of a pine called black pine. It had a lot of rosin in it. They'd saw out the blocks of wood about 4 foot long. They'd split that up while there wouldn't be little pieces much bigger than your finger. They'd make torches, what they call torches. They'd just take a bunch of them and bail them up and tie a string around them, and they could power one end of it, and you know that'd make a light and they could burn a long time. And they'd go to go some of the neighbors of the nights, you know, in a big hurry. They'd have a torch, what they call a torch.
Is that right?
Yeah, that's what the lights they had, and then they got to having lanterns. I don't.
But did that rosin, is that what kept it burning so long?
Yeah, you know that it was rich with rosin.
The black pine.
And I saw them make, you know, they had something they greased the wagons with, wagon wheel, they called it tar. And I saw my brother make tar one time. He went and cut that black pine, some of the logs down, split it up right fine, put it in an old pot, turned it bottom upward, put fire on top of that, and that rosin in there melted, and he'd run out then. He put it on a slanting place, fixed for it to run out, and a bucket to catch it, and made tar to grease his wagon.
Is that right?
Yeah, that's the way he made the tar now to grease his wagon. You know, they claim, you know, they'd run better to grease it with tar, and they call it tar. And I saw him make the tar, you know, now that is interesting now to see him make that tar.
Well, I never heard it. Did and they didn't? Did they put the fire under it
No,
or on top of it?
they got a big flat rock, turn that, put that, to fill that, pot, held the bushel over, split that wood up right fine, put in the pot, turn it up on a rock, and put fire on top of that pot. What, you know, the old-fashioned wash pots, you saw them.
Yeah.
Now that's what he had, make his tar.
And it just got it hot, and it just
Put
oozed
the,
out.
then just took him some wood and made a fire on top of that, and when it got hot, that rosin, you see, all run out, and that was the star.
Well, for goodness sake.
Yeah.
Well, I'm learning a lot today too.
Well, now that's true, because I was a kid and I watched him make his star.
Uh-huh.
I was out on the farm watching everything. I learned how to graft. I used to be extra good hand to graft apple trees. I watched my brother graft. I was out on the farm watching everything went on around there.
Well, when you grafted the tree, did you use beeswax to?
No.
How did you go about grafting your
Well,
tree?
I got a recipe for making grafting wax.
You had?
Yeah.
What is it?
Used 4 pounds of English rosin, 2 pounds of beeswax, 1 pound of tallow, and mix it, melt it.
Mutton tallow.
Yeah,
Mutton
any kind of beef tallow. We
Mutton.
use beef tallow usually. You know, my daddy would kill a beef about every year, and we'd have beef tallow. We'd use that. Well, we'd melt that all together, and when it got melted, we'd pour it out in a pan of cold water, and as it got cold, we'd work it up in little round rolls, you know, something like that long, and just little bits of rolls. And now that was the grafting wax. Yeah, I learned to make the grafting wax, then I watched my brother graft, and I was a good hand to graft. I scarcely ever lost a sight when I grafted.
When you got your little limb from your tree, how did you do? Split the?
Saw the limb off, you know, on the tree, saw that off, and my husband, he fixed outfits, you know, to burst the limbs open, burst them open and drive a little wedge in there. Then you'd stick my grafts, I'd cut them about that long, you know, and you slide
it in
one
there.
end off a little,
Take
stick them down in there, stick them pretty tight, and we'd drive a wedge. The same if you did drive a wedge down in there, that the stub would go back together and press your graft out. But when you put the wedge, that held it apart, and then we put the graft in pretty tight, pack that grafting wax all good and tight around the top of it, and down the side as far as that split went down in the stub of the tree. And if there's every bit of air goes in there, they claim that your graft won't grow. And you've got to get the graft on the outside where the sap will connect with the sap of the stub. If you don't get the sap together, it won't grow.
Is that right?
Yeah, there has to be a little art in it there, you know how to graft to get them to grow.
So you have to put that little limb down so far, don't you?
Yeah.
Down far enough to where you said the sap will meet.
On the edge of where you start off, just pass it down in there where it'll be sure to connect, the sap connects, and then it'll grow. And I just learned that, and I scarcely ever lost a graft when I put a graft in.
How
The
about
apple
that?
tree there now, going there now, big apple tree that I grafted. And Santa said, well, big tree, my favorite apple, it come away and stopped this not long ago and blew the big tree down, the Wolf River, my choice apples, you know, on the farm. and he said it'd blow down.
You didn't have to spray apples in those days, did
No.
you? Apple trees.
No, when I first remembered, we no had no such thing as apple worms. But they got to be bad though afterwards.
They sure did. Well, that's interesting. Now, I wanted to mention about you talked about your mother, how she worked so hard.
Yeah.
And of course, you were 98, will be 99 in March, and you go to you get your hair done, and all those pretty little things that you do. Now, did your mother ever worry about her hair being curly or a permanent? They didn't have permanents in her day.
No, she just put her hair up in 3 rolls. She parted it here, and she put up a roll on the back of her head. Then she took this around and kind of tucked it down over air and took it out and made a ball on the back of her head. And, back then, they combed every day, they combed their head good with a fine comb. Some people wasn't very clean around. They're all scared to death. They comb their head every day good with a